The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privileges of the floor will kindly retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance will stand and be led in prayer by the Reverend Anthony C. Page, First Baptist Church, Lamberts Point, Norfolk, Virginia. Reverend Page, thank you.
Let us pray. Merciful God, in whom we live and move and have our being, please bless these leaders of our state government as they carry out their duly elected responsibilities of carrying on the people's business. Give them the courage, wisdom, and understanding they will need to make good decisions that will be beneficial for today and generations to come. Keep them filled with your spirit so that when they disagree, they will never become stagnant and carelessly disagreeable at the expense of your people. Today we pray that you will shine your favor upon every town and city of our state and throughout our nation. Keep all of our minds open to your new revelations, research, and inventions as you reveal to us the rising tide of change in our world. Please forgive us for anything that we have done or failed to do to offend you or others. We acknowledge that you and you alone can perfectly govern. In your holy names we pray. Amen.
Amen. Call the roll. All those present will please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
Senate Journal for Monday, February 22nd, 2016.
The senator from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 3, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 35, noes 3, Rule 36-1. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will please report any communications from the House. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respectfully move that we waive the reading of any communications received from the House of Delegates, sir.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All in favor of waiving the reading of the communication from the House will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 5.
Ayes 34, noes 5. The reading of the communication is waived. The clerk will please report any communications from the governor.
We do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The time has come to recognize visitors to the gallery and take up other matters for the morning hour. That's fine. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respectfully move that the rules of the Senate be suspended and that the privileges of the floor be extended to certain distinguished persons, sir.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the privileges of the floor granted to a distinguished person? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? If any senators desire to change their votes, the clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The rules are suspended. The privileges of the floor are granted. The chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, 47 years and 1 day ago, February the 22nd, 1969, Colonel Wesley L. Fox commanded a Marine Corps company in a very fierce, extraordinary battle in Vietnam, in which he exhibited such courage and leadership that he received the Medal of Honor, the highest award for heroism in war authorized by Congress. Colonel Fox is only one of 3 living Virginians who are Medal of Honor recipients. And he would tell you he's the only true Virginian because the rest were born out of state. Colonel Fox was born near Herndon, Virginia. And joining Colonel Fox on the floor today is his lovely wife of 54 years, Dottie Lou, and one of his daughters, Nicole or Nikki, son-in-law Michael, and granddaughter Millie McCabe. Millie is 8. In the gallery today to celebrate this occasion are several distinguished guests. John Harvey, Secretary of Virginia Veterans and Defense Affairs, and Deputy Secretary Jaime Arizaga Soto, John Hilgers, Executive Director of the Virginia Veterans Services Foundation, John Newby, the second Commissioner of Virginia Department of Veterans Services, John Hatfield, Executive Director of the Virginia War Memorial, and Robert Moskoff, retired Colonel USMC, and Director of Emergency Preparedness for the Virginia Department of Health. Mr. President, in 1993, after 43 years in the United States Marine Corps, Colonel Fox retired from active duty. He and his family moved to Blacksburg, which is part of my district, and he became Deputy Commandant of Cadets at Virginia Tech, from which he is now retired. Colonel Fox first enlisted in the Marine Corps as a private on August the 4th, 1950, at the beginning of the Korean War, serving with distinction and receiving a Bronze Star with Combat Valor, among other medals, in Korea. He has the unique distinction of having worked his way through the enlisted ranks from private to first sergeant before being commissioned as second lieutenant in 1966 and rising to the rank of full colonel. On an extended tour in Vietnam, First Lieutenant Fox commanded Company A, 1st Battalion, 9th Marines. They called themselves the Walking Dead, a nickname that proved all too real. On February the 22nd, 1969, Lieutenant Fox led his company into the Shaw Valley near the Laotian border during Operation Dewey Canyon. His unit found itself in the middle of a larger-than-expected North Vietnamese force, concealed behind fortified positions. Lieutenant Fox believed he had one of 2 options: withdraw or attack. He decided to hit the enemy head-on and attack. He knew it was all or nothing, do or die. As his company prepared to attack, a rocket-propelled grenade exploded against a bush just 2 feet from him. His helmet and flak jacket saved his life, but shrapnel ripped his left leg and shoulder. When he spotted an enemy sniper, he promptly took a fallen Marine's M16 rifle and shot and killed the sniper. A mortar round exploded nearby, wounding Lieutenant Fox yet again. Soon, all his command team were killed or wounded and taken out of action. Despite all this, he kept moving forward through heavy fire, including machine gun fire. He later wrote, "All seemed hopeless. Enemy gunners appeared to have every inch of jungle floor covered. They were everywhere. I felt we were losing the fight, and I was lost for ideas as to how to improve our situation." At this point, the mist and clouds cleared, and he called in close air support and directed the pilots to targets destroying the enemy machine guns, which were about to destroy his company. The North Vietnamese troops began to retreat. Twice wounded, and the only officer remaining to lead the company, he refused medical treatment for his own injuries and prepared the wounded for evacuation. 12 of his men were killed. Most of the rest were wounded, with 58 requiring medevac. The North Vietnamese lost 105 men killed. Recommended for the Medal of Honor for his heroic actions above and beyond the call of duty, on March 1971, at a ceremony in the White House, the President of the United States placed the Medal of Honor around his neck. 2 weeks later, the White House ceremony was reenacted at the basic school at Quantico, where Wesley Fox was then an instructor. Some 250 awe-inspired student lieutenants were riveted by the ceremony and the descriptions of his heroics. Mr. President, I was one of those student lieutenants in attendance that day and well remember the ceremony and thinking to myself, how could one man do what he did? Now in retirement, Colonel Fox has written 3 books. In 2002, Marine Rifleman, 43 years in the Corps, a memoir chronicling his distinguished career in the Marine Corps. In 2007, he wrote Courage and Fear, a primer. And in 2011, he wrote 6 Essential Elements of Leadership. Mr. President, if you talk to Marines, they'll tell you that Colonel Fox is a legend in the Marine Corps for his exemplary character, his long and distinguished career, and his demonstrated display of courage and leadership under fire. Mr. President, we can all learn from Colonel Fox, especially about leadership. He has written that to be a leader, one must have good character, solid principles, and high ethical standards to inspire others to follow. And Mr. President, before asking you to recognize this true American hero, I would ask the clerk to read the commending resolution for Colonel Wesley L. Fox, SJR 116.
Senate Joint Resolution Number 116, commending Colonel Wesley L. Fox, United States Marine Corps, retired. Whereas Colonel Wesley L. Fox, United States Marine Corps, retired, of Blacksburg, a decorated veteran and recipient of the Medal of Honor, has served the Commonwealth and the United States with the utmost dedication and distinction. And whereas a native of Herndon, Colonel Fox joined the United States Marine Corps in 1950. He served 2 tours during the Korean War, then returned to the United States and served as a drill instructor and recruiter. And whereas throughout his military career, Colonel Fox displayed courage, gallantry, and an unyielding commitment to duty, he earned the Medal of Honor for his actions on February the 22nd, 1969, during Operation Dewey Canyon in the Quang Tri province of Vietnam. And whereas during Operation Dewey Canyon, Colonel Fox personally neutralized an enemy emplacement and directed his fellow Marines to destroy others, despite having been wounded in action. He then directed airstrikes, coordinated an advance until the enemy retreated, and ensured that wounded Marines were cared for and prepped for evacuation before seeking treatments for his own wounds. And whereas regarded as a legend in the United States Marine Corps, Colonel Fox held every enlisted and officer rank except Sergeant Major over the course of his 43-year career. In addition to the Medal of Honor, he earned several other awards and decorations, including the Legion of Merit, the Bronze Star Medal, the Navy Commendation Medal, the Purple Heart, and many others. And whereas after his retirement from military service at the mandatory retirement age of 62 in 1993, Colonel Fox served as Deputy Commandant of Cadets for the Virginia Tech Corps of Cadets, where he helped inspire countless future leaders. And whereas Colonel Fox wrote a book about his unique experiences, Marine Rifleman, 43 years in the Corps, and was featured on the 2003 PBS documentary, American Valor. He lives in Blacksburg with his wife, Dottie, with whom he has 3 daughters. And whereas Colonel Fox is an example of the professionalism, dedication to duty, and leadership displayed by men and women in uniform throughout the Commonwealth and the United States, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate, the House of Delegates concurring, that the General Assembly hereby commend Colonel Wesley L. Fox, United States Marine Corps, retired, for his dedicated service to the Commonwealth and the United States. And be it resolved further that the Clerk of the Senate prepare a copy of this resolution for presentation to Colonel Wesley L. Fox, United States Marine Corps, retired, as an expression of the General Assembly's admiration for his heroic service and sacrifices in defense of the nation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. While Colonel Fox is being escorted to the front of the dais, I would ask the Senate to please join me in offering Colonel Fox and his family and guests the warm welcome of the Senate. are you doing, Colonel? It's a pleasure meeting you. So
My
just-
pleasure to be here with all of my fellow Virginians. Okay.
I'm going to say just a couple words. Well, Colonel Fox, on behalf of the Senate and our staff, we thank you for being with us today. It's a privilege for us to have you on the floor of the Senate, and thank you for your service to this country. What an amazing story. It's also great to have Admiral Harvey and your guest in the gallery today, and thank you all for your service. Colonel, we have, I know, at least 3 Marines on the floor of the Senate here. We have some from the Army, some from the Navy, so we are well represented, but it's all of our mission to make sure that Virginia is the most veteran-friendly state, and that we have veterans that want to come back here and live and work and raise their family. And so we thank you for being a leader, and congratulations for all your accomplishments. Thank you, sir.
Sure, my
Yes,
pleasure.
sir. I know a lot of folks want to say hi to you. The Senate will stand at ease. The Senate will come to order. Returning to the morning hour, we recognize the Senator from Fauquier County, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for purposes of an introduction.
The Senator has the floor.
It is my great honor to direct your attention in the gallery to a number of guests who are here from Shenandoah University's Athletic Training Master's Degree Program. They are Kyle Lewis, Brittany Davis, Daryl Thompson, Zach Captain, Michelle Moreau, and Byron Campbell. They are accompanied by the director of the athletic training program, Dr. Rose Schmieg. I had the chance to visit with them this morning, and we had a wonderful visit, and I hope they get some time to meet with others and get to advocate on some of the issues that they are concerned about. So I ask that you please extend to them the very warm welcome of the Senate.
Well, thank you, Senator. Would members from Shenandoah University's athletic training program please rise? Welcome. And I know a lot of the senators know, but you all were very involved with the work that we did a couple years ago on concussions, and we appreciate that and all the other things that you advocate for, like the senator from Fauquier said. So thanks for being here today, and we hope you all have a wonderful visit. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from Shenandoah University Master's Program the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for the purposes of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, today in the gallery and in Senate Room 3 are about 600 different 4-H'ers from around the state. Mr. President, they are with one of their foundation board members, Nicole Riley, and stretch from jurisdictions Spotsylvania, Caroline, King George, all the way to Roanoke, Craig, and Montgomery. Mr. President, 4-H is a youth development education program of the Cooperative Extension Service, and they stand for head, heart, hands, and health. Mr. President, we have, I think, traditionally think of 4-H as agriculture, but they also do many things like robotics teams, video production, and even have top chef competitions. Mr. President, 4-H emphasizes learning by doing for youth development. Mr. President, if you could give the many 4-H students from across the state the warm welcome of the Senate today.
I will. Thank you, Senator. And I know we have several introductions for 4-H members, and if it's okay with the Senate members, I think we can include all of these because we do have quite a wonderful group. But if I could ask all the 4-H members in our gallery to please rise. Wow, what a great group. And thank you all for being with us this afternoon, and had the opportunity to meet with some of you a little bit earlier in the day, but a lot of us in the gallery are serving the Senate, actually grew up on farms, and we appreciate the raising of animals and all the other activities that you are involved in, and it's just a great part of your overall education. And I remind folks that agriculture is our #1 industry in the Commonwealth of Virginia, so we need to continue to remind folks of that as we travel across the Commonwealth and go back to our community. So thank you all for being here today, and we certainly hope on behalf of all the senators that represent your districts, hope that you all have a wonderful visit and enjoy Mr. Jefferson's capital. I would ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the 4-H clubs across the Commonwealth the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for purposes of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I'd like to bring to the attention of the members the presence in the gallery of Miss Rebecca Rubin. Mr. President, she is visiting us today from Fredericksburg, Virginia, and she's the president and CEO of Marstall Day, a consulting firm that she founded in 2002, which provides expertise to private and public sector organizations on various environmental issues, such as habitat and species preservation, smart growth and transportation, water resources, and cost-effective techniques to deliver services through the use of natural infrastructure. Mr. President, over the last 14 years, she's grown her company from 1 to 130 full-time employees that has 8 offices nationwide, with Fredericksburg being the headquarters of the organization. In 2013, she was named by the White House as a champion of change for community resilience And in 2011, Virginia Business Magazine named her as one of the top people to watch. Mr. President, we're very happy to have her here today to visit with us. She's accompanied also by Mr. John Mitchell, and I would ask that you offer her the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would Ms. Rebecca Rubin and John Mitchell please rise? Welcome to the gallery this afternoon, and wow, what great work you have done across the Commonwealth, and we appreciate your advocacy for our environment, and we all like to help others be good stewards of the environment. It's very important for the Commonwealth of Virginia, so we appreciate you being here this afternoon. Hope you have a wonderful visit. I would ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Ms. Rebecca Rubin and Mr. John Mitchell the warm welcome of the Senate. The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeStep.
Mr. President, I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Today in the gallery and on Capitol grounds, we have the young men representing the Men of Faith program from southeastern Virginia. Men of Faith is run by and led by Mr. Ron Taylor. The organization provides responsible role models, one-on-one mentoring in order for young men to become more successful individuals and to achieve academically, and to demonstrate positive behaviors along the pathway to success. Every year, this group visits the Capitol for a first-hand introduction to the political process, along with an opportunity to interact with their elected officials. Please join me in welcoming the Men of Faith to the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would Mr. Ron Taylor and those that are with you from Men of Faith please rise? Senator, I'm not sure if they have made their way to the gallery. Perhaps they're watching from another viewing area, but if you are watching, we appreciate you all being here with us this afternoon. I would ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Mr. Ron Taylor and members from Men of Faith the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Accomack County, Senator Lewis.
Mr. President, rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, our prayer today was given by the Reverend Anthony Curtis Page, who is with us in the gallery now. Reverend Page has been providing leadership and spiritual guidance to his congregation at Lamberts Point Baptist Church in Norfolk for 25 years. The local Lamberts Point community has been ably served by his leadership in the establishment of the Village Point Senior Apartments and other neighborhood improvements. His service to the Commonwealth is reflected in tenures on the Virginia Board of Corrections, the Old Dominion University Board of Visitors, and the Norfolk City Planning Commission. In honor of the 25th anniversary of his thought-provoking sermons as senior pastor to Lamberts Point Baptist Church, and in recognition of his tireless efforts to improve Norfolk's neighborhoods, we earlier this session passed Senate Resolution 18. Reverend Page is accompanied today by George Pender, and I would ask that we give him the warm welcome of the Virginia Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would the Reverend Anthony C. Page and Mr. George Pender please rise? Thank you all so much for making the trip down from Norfolk. It's always good seeing some friendly faces from back at home, and what a wonderful church. You have so much to be proud of, and you have touched many lives over the years, and we appreciate that. Thank you for being here to get us off on the right foot today. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering the Reverend Anthony C. Page and Mr. George Pender the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
In the gallery today, we have a group from Leadership Nottoway, led by Chuck Anderson, their chairman. I ask you to give them a warm welcome.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from Leadership Nottoway please rise? Welcome to the gallery this afternoon. You all are over in the corner. I didn't see you at first, but thank you for being here, and thanks for being here to advocate for those things that are important to you, and we certainly hope you have a wonderful afternoon in Mr. Jefferson's capital. I would ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from Leadership Nottoway the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for purposes of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I know that each and every one of the senators in here are most appreciative of the extraordinary group of pages that we have this year, and the pages come from all across the great Commonwealth of Virginia. In the gallery today, is Michael Moore Riley, who is the father of our page, and I would respectfully ask that you extend the warm greetings of the Senate to this dad who ought to be extraordinarily proud of his son, who's doing a marvelous job for us, sir.
Thank you, sir. Michael Moore, if you, please rise. Thank you so much for being here. And we have a great class of pages this year, and it's actually become, our page system is probably the finest in this nation, and that's due to the credit from our staff, our clerk of the Senate and her staff. So we've had a great time with them. In just a couple weeks, we're going to let them come back home to be back with you. But thank you for being a parent and letting your child be up here and participate in the page program. I would ask members of the Senate to please join me in offering Mr. Michael Moore the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to request a leave of absence for my seatmate from Hampton, Senator Locke, who is away from the Capitol on pressing personal business.
Thank you, Senator. The Journal will so reflect that the senator from Hampton, Senator Locke, is away from the Capitol on pressing personal business. The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, some 4-H members may have already been recognized, but I know there's a group of 4-H members from Roanoke, Montgomery County, and Craig County that are here today. As you know, 4-H means head, heart, hands, and health. And it's an organization not only devoted to, agriculture and animal judging and that sort of thing, but also they are involved in robotic teams, video production, and the Top Chef competition, and many other things. They believe in learning by doing. So I'd hope you would give the 4-H members from Montgomery, Roanoke County, and Craig County the warm welcome of the Senate.
I will. Thank you, Senator. Are the 4-H members from Roanoke, Montgomery, and Craig County still with us? If you are, please rise. I know we still have some 4-H members with us, and thank you all for being here today. And I was talking to you all earlier in the day, and having grown up on the farm, sheep, hogs, cattle, goats, done it all, but the worst is whoever had to clean up the chicken coop. So I hope you haven't had to experience that. And actually cleaning out the chicken coop will make you want to study harder in school, which it did me. So anyway, thank you all for being here today, and we hope you all have a good visit. I would ask the members once again to please offer members from 4-H the warm welcome of the Senate. Is there any other business for the morning hour? Seeing none, the clerk will please call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Tuesday, February 23rd, 2016. Uncontested calendar, House bills on third reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I respectfully move that all of the House bills on the third reading on the uncontested calendar, including all House bills on pages 1 through 10, including House Bill 742 through House Bill 1350, be placed on their final passage in the block after the adoption of any amendments. If any senator desires to remove a House bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 1 through 10, House Bill 742 through House Bill 1350, be placed upon their final passage in a block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will please read the number of the bills.
House Bill 742, reported from the Committee on Finance with a substitute.
The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask that that bill go by for the day.
Without objection, House Bill 742 will go by for the day.
House Bill 353, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. House Bill 114, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 115, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 137, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 200, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 208, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 245, reported from the Committee on Rules. House Bill 262, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 317, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 327, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 340, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with a substitute.
Senator from Stafford.
Mr. President, I move the substitute be agreed to.
Question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to.
House Bill 387, reported from the Committee on Rules. House Bill 438, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 440, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 472, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 514, reported for the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 676, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with amendments.
The senator from James City County.
I apologize to the senator. If that bill could be taken out of the block and passed by for the day before the committee amendments are adopted, sir.
Without objection, House Bill 676 will come out of the block and by for the day.
House Bill 699, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 734, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 807, reported from the Committee on Rules. House Bill 991, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services. House Bill 1211, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources. House Bill 1322, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services. House Bill 1350, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services.
The senator from Roanoke County.
Mr. President, can House Bill 1350 come out of the block, please?
Without objection, House Bill 1350 will come out of the block.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir. The senior senator from Bath County.
Thanks very much. Could House Bill 262 on page 4 come out of the block, please?
Without objection, House Bill 262 on page 4 will come out of the block. The question is, shall the House bills pass in block? That is, all bills except for 742, 676, 262, and 1350. All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The bills in the block pass. Returning to page 4, House Bill 262, the senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass, and speaking to that.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this bill had to do with the sale of certain wildlife parts, and I'm actually trying to find the relevant parts. Essentially, if you, under the laws of Game and Inland Fisheries, if you shoot something, you can't sell those parts, and so we are giving specific provisions to allow that so it's not unlawful. That's all the bill does.
Mr. President, will the gentleman yield?
Would the senator from Stafford yield?
Will the gentleman yield for a question?
I don't want to yield. I don't want to yield, Mr. President. He was in the committee. I'll yield,
I'm
Mr.
not
President.
in the committee, Mr. President. I'd ask if the language on lines 67 through 68 would ultimately allow the sale of products like the gallbladder of a bear. That's been kind of a black market
taking except where the
target for certain ethnic minorities.
Senator from Stafford.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I was reading, I wasn't paying attention. I'm going to try to answer the question as best I can. What the language on 66 through 68 would allow is for the Game and Inland Fisheries to adopt regulations to allow for the sale of certain wildlife parts after they have been legally taken or hunted, as long as it's not detrimental to public health or sound wildlife management. That is the best I can answer the gentleman's question.
Oh, Mr. President, would the gentleman yield for an additional question?
He yields, Senator.
Gee, thank you, Mr. President.
Would the gentleman agree with me that this very practice could lead to harvesting animals for some of which are in short supply for purposes other than taking of meat or trophies?
Senator from Stafford.
Mr. President, I would answer the gentleman that I reckon anything's possible. I'm not sure that's what this bill contemplated, but I certainly reckon it's possible.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. President,
I'm satisfied.
The senator from Spotsylvania, Senator
I wish to
Reed.
speak to the bill briefly.
I'm sorry, Senator.
I wish to speak to the bill briefly.
Senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the body, this is similar to the Trappers bill that we passed out of this body. It has gone to Department of Game and Inland Fisheries. It does nothing more than allow them the latitude to to promulgate the regulations in which to do this. The laws were so tight that these folks that were taking these animals and trapping these animals were having to throw away the parts that were still useful. So this just allows Department of Game and Inland Fisheries that ability to make those regulations. I don't think those folks are going to allow gallbladders of bears and some of those other parts that a lot of folks were concerned about to go out into the public. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Franklin County, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the gentleman from Stafford yield for a question?
Would the senator yield?
No, Mr. President, I will not yield.
He does not yield, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Would you like to speak to the bill?
Mr. President, I just think there's one pressing issue that has been at the forefront of the Senate agenda that I was asking for an answer for, which was, would we count Bigfoot as a part of that wildlife, and therefore would those parts be for sale in the open market? But since the senator from Stafford does not wish to opine on such a serious matter, I will sit down now. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 262 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 4.
Ayes 34, noes 4. The bill passes. Moving forward to page 7, to page 10. House Bill 1350. The senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is another one of the alcohol bills that has to do with distillers, and it allows them to give sample of spirits on premise under the following conditions: that the spirits or samples are manufactured within the same licensed premises or on contiguous premises of such agent licensed as a distillery. No single sample shall exceed 1/2 ounces of spirits unless served as a mixed beverage, in which case a single sample may contain up to 1 1/2 ounces of spirits. No more than 3 ounces of spirits may be given or sold to any person per day. I believe this bill is very similar to, maybe a couple words off, to the senator from Bath and the senator from Buckingham. This is already allowed for beer, wine, and cider. This is likely not to have any physical impact. It did pass the House 92-6. That's the bill, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 1350 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 4.
Ayes 35, noes 4. The bill passes.
Regular calendar House bills on third reading. House Bill 496, a bill relating to attorney-issued summons, proof of payment to clerk's office. Reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move that the bill pass. And speaking to this is a bill we discussed briefly yesterday. It deals with attorney-issued subpoenas and summonses. This is simply intended to provide for the orderly administration of our civil justice system. And as with other procedural devices, the code sets forth details concerning the process that must be followed in order to secure attorney-issued subpoenas. That's all this does.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
I thank you, Mr. President. Speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I promised the proponents of this bill that I would only speak 2 sentences against the bill, so I've put them in iambic pentameter. This bill is not needed. It should really be defeated, but who will be so brave as to defy the mighty Boyd Graves? I ask that you defeat the bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 496 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, noes 7.
Ayes 32, noes 7. The bill passes.
House Bill 562, a bill relating to licensure of massage therapists. The committee amendments have been adopted by the Senate.
The senator from Lynchburg, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that House Bill 562 pass, and speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, for many years now, the board has certified massage therapists, and this bill would seek to have them become licensed. The bill also has reciprocal rights for others that are coming to Virginia to do so. So with that, I would hope that the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 562 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 5.
Ayes 34, noes 5. The bill passes.
House Bill 20, a bill relating to the excise tax on peanuts, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources.
The senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass, and speaking to the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this is a self-imposed tax that helps promote the peanut industry. It is identical to Senator Lucas's bill, which I think passed nearly unanimously. Move the bill pass.
The question is, shall House Bill 20 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 5.
Ayes 34, noes 5. The bill passes.
House Bill 1270, a bill relating to establishment of a companion animal care advisory committee, reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources.
The senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I'd move that bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I really don't quite understand how this bill got such a strange vote on it. All the bill seeks to do is to establish or impanel an advisory group, which is led by the state veterinarian, to try to help work through some of these animal welfare issues that people get so emotional about on each side. And that's all the bill does. With that, I'd move the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Western Fairfax County, Senator Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak to the bill.
Floor.
Mr. President, I think the concern with the bill is that there's a regulatory process that's going to be in place to deal with companion animal issues, and that this might be either a conflict or create some confusion in terms of whose role is what. I think this is something that can already be created by the state veterinarian without the need for legislation. And I think something like this ought to be put in place after the regulations are done, so as to not create confusion and put people in role conflict here. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. I initially voted in favor of this and was then visited by an array of people. I mean, I had a line of people from various dog-caring facilities, and they're all against it. And basically what they were saying is that we've done this before. We had a committee, and it met, and it met, and it met, and it never achieved a single thing. And they just don't want to be tied up forever and ever sitting on useless committees. And that's kind of the bottom line of it. And so I do intend to vote against it this time.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 1270 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 9, noes 30.
Ayes 9, noes 30. The bill does not pass.
Uncontested calendar, House bills on second reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just recovering from the dog bite there. Mr. President, I respectfully move that all of the House bills on the second reading, including all House bills on pages 12 through 18, including House Bill 170 through House Bill 1290, that the rules of the Senate be suspended and that the second constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the second reading of the titles of House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 12 through 18, House Bill 170 through House Bill 1290, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes. Aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would now move that all the bills be passed by for the day, sir.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on third reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Uncontested.
The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Wagner.
Having voted on the prevailing side by which we failed to pass House Bill 1270 on page 11, I move that we reconsider that vote.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the vote by which House Bill 1270 failed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their votes. Aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, noes 0. The motion is agreed to. The senior senator from Virginia Beach. Thank you, Senator. Without objection, House Bill 1270 will go by for the day.
Mr. President?
Yes, the senator from Norfolk.
Having voted on the prevailing side, which we passed House Bill 496, I move that we reconsider that vote.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the vote by which House Bill 496 passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their votes. Aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, noes 0. The motion is agreed to. The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, having previously been explained, I move that the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 496 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes. Aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 31, noes 8.
Ayes 31, noes 8. The bill passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading. Senate Bill 29, a bill to amend and reenact Chapter 665 of the 2015 Acts of Assembly, which appropriated the public revenues and provided a portion of such revenues for the 2 years ending respectively on the 30th day of June 2015 and the 30th day of June 2016. Senate Bill 30, a bill for all appropriations of the budget submitted by the Governor of Virginia in accordance with the provisions of Sections 2.2-1509 Code of Virginia, and to provide a portion of revenues for the 2 years ending respectively on the 30th day of June 2017 and the 30th day of June 2018. Uncontested calendar, House Joint Resolutions on third reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I'd move all the House joint resolutions on the third reading on pages 19 through 23, which would include House Joint Resolution number 7 through House Joint Resolution 245, be placed on their final passage in the block after the adoption of any amendments. If any senator desires to remove a resolution from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of that resolution.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Joint Resolutions on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 19 through 23, HJR 7 through HJR 245, be placed upon their final passage in a block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will please read the number of the resolutions.
House Joint Resolution 7, reported from the Committee on Rules. House Joint Resolution 31, reported from the Committee on Rules. House Joint Resolution 45, reported from the Committee on Rules. House Joint Resolution 69, reported from the Committee on Rules with amendments.
The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, I move the committee amendments be accepted.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
House Joint Resolution 84, reported for the Committee on Rules with amendments.
Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, I move the committee amendments be accepted.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
House Joint Resolution 87, reported for the Committee on Rules. House Joint Resolution 88, reported from the Committee on Rules. House Joint Resolution 97, reported from the Committee on Rules with a substitute.
Senator from Hanover.
Mr. President, I move the committee substitute be accepted.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to.
House Joint Resolution 112, reported for the Committee on Rules with amendments.
The senator from Hanover.
Mr. President, I move the committee amendments be accepted and agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
House Joint Resolution 120, reported for the Committee on Rules. House Joint Resolution 157, reported from the Committee on Rules. House Joint Resolution 163, reported from the Committee on Rules.
Senator from Hanover.
Mr. President, I move that House Joint Resolution 163 be removed from the block. And for members of the body, the reason it needs to come out of the block is this requires a recorded vote.
Thank you, Senator. Without objection, HJR 163 will come out of the block.
House Joint Resolution 169, reported from the Committee on Rules. House Joint Resolution 181, reported from the Committee on Rules. House Joint Resolution 197, reported for the Committee on Rules with amendments.
Senator from Hanover.
Mr. President, I move that the committee amendments be agreed to and accepted.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to and accepted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to and accepted.
House Joint Resolution 206, reported from the Committee on Rules. House Joint Resolution 245, reported from the Committee on Rules.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The question is, shall the House joint resolutions be agreed to in block? That is, all resolutions except for 163 on page 22. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolutions in the block are agreed to. Returning to page 22, House Joint Resolution 163, the senator from Hanover.
Mr. President, I move that HJR 163 pass, and speaking to the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this is a resolution confirming appointments by the Speaker of the House of Delegates, and thus it requires a recorded vote.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall HJR 163 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. HJR 163 is agreed to.
Regular calendar, House Joint Resolutions on third reading. House Joint Resolution 210, election of a Supreme Court of Virginia Justice, reported for the Committee for Courts of Justice.
Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenchain.
Could that go by for the day?
Without objection, HJR 210 will go by for the day.
House Joint Resolution 160, requesting the Virginia Department of Health to study Virginia's procedures for licensing dogs and cats. Reported for the Committee on Rules.
The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, with much trepidation, I move that HJR 160 pass, and speaking to that briefly.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this bill deals with dogs and cats. Two things that one should never put legislation in to regulate. Mr. President, this resolution would require the Department of Health to do a study about rabies licenses for dogs and cats.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall HJR 160 be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, inquiry of the clerk, does that complete today's calendar?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? The senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for purposes of making an announcement.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Virginia Women's Monument Commission is holding an informational meeting at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning in the GAB building, room 3 East. And they are in the process of building a monument. Their project is called Voices from the Garden. So if you'd like to learn more about the monument honoring significant women or women who have given significant contributions to Virginia, you are all welcome to attend this informational setting. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The clerk will please report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Tuesday, February 23rd, the Committee on Local Government will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment in Senate Room B. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Certificate of Public Need will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment, Senate Room 3, Senators Newman, Saslaw, Lucas, Barker, Cosgrove, Donovan, Chase, and Suderline. The Committee on Privileges and Elections will meet at 4 p.m. in Senate Room A. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Health will meet at 4:30 p.m., 3rd floor East Conference Room, Senators Cosgrove, Black, Barker, Lewis, and Suderline. Wednesday, February 24th, the Finance Subcommittee on Claims will meet at 8 a.m., 10th floor conference room, Senators Carrico, Lucas, Vogel, Obenshain, and Barker. The Women's Legislative Roundtable will meet at 8:30 a.m., 5th floor East Conference Room. The Committee on Finance will meet at 9 a.m. in Senate Room B. The Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 2. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 1, and all footballs need to be checked in with the Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The senator from Lynchburg, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until noon tomorrow.
The question is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow.